Because, like,
Go ahead.
speaking to people around my age that are Muslim, it really helps you, I feel like, because you get a group of people that can just help you, like, insert yourself into the religion. I'm learning to pray, so I've been praying. I try to do it maybe twice a day now. Like, I up the number is what I'm doing. I started with once a day, now I'm doing twice a day. I do in English because I have the Arabic reading, but I feel like I don't feel as spiritually because I don't understand it. Whenever I pray, I almost want to start bawling my eyes. Like, I just get an emotional feeling, and it's like, no, we don't need to bawl our eyes every time you go to pray, Kaley. You don't need to. It might sound weird, but I like the idea that in the Quran, that the men are supposed to take care of the women. I liked that just because I have a lot of health issues myself. I already know when I get older, when I want to get married, I'm going to need a man that can support me. And I know in this religion, it's that's still a thing. Just love yourself, but love Allah at the same part. Because if you can't love yourself, you won't be able to love Him. And I feel like that's important. And I had to learn to love myself before I could love Him.
As-salamu alaykum, dear listeners. Today we are speaking with Kaley July, who hails from Flint, Michigan. She is an 18-year-old college student who has just reverted this past spring. Alhamdulillah. Welcome to the show, Kaley.
Hi, thank you.
You're welcome. So right off the bat, we usually like to delve into what kind of religious teachings that were a part of your childhood, if any.
So my mom kind of tried teaching us like religious teachings. Like, we went to Catholic churches, so she was mainly Christian, and my dad is too. So like, I grew up going to churches on and off my whole life. Wasn't really specific. I didn't really have a strict guideline, if that makes sense. It was just more of, you're kind of Christian, and we went to churches. That's about it. Because my dad's family is Sicilian, and they were all Catholics, and my mom's family is Irish, so they're mainly Catholic, but I didn't have a strict guideline.
And so as you were growing up, did you go to religious studies like catechism and things like that?
I had Sunday school that I would go to in the mornings, and then I did go on a trip to Ohio to a Catholic school for like a week, but that's like as far as it went. I didn't really have a lot of school-wise teaching. It was just occasional Sunday school.
And during that time, did you ever pick up the Bible and engage with it, or what were your thoughts?
I tried reading the Bible as a kid, but like, I personally could never connect through Christianity. Like, I could never get with it or feel spiritual connections. Like, it never suited me. And I always just had a distaste towards going to church.
Was there anything in particular at church that bothered you?
The people. It sounds mean, but it was the people.
Okay, and by the people, what do you mean? What did you run into that kind of turned you off?
It's just, I don't want to like be mean about it, but I feel like where I was around, the Christians I was around are very judgy. And if you didn't agree with something in Christianity, it wasn't welcomed. So like, I always had questions, or I would always just not like it, and I'd always try to figure out something. And if you asked a pastor or someone, they didn't like that you had a question. So it's just something I couldn't connect with.
Yeah, so you were left with a lot of questions, unanswered questions, and that started maybe your spiritual journey to the truth?
I would say that.
So where did you go from Catholicism then?
From Catholicism, I actually went to atheism. I knew there was something out there, but I knew it wasn't Catholicism or Christianity for me personally. I don't have anything against it. It's just it never suited me. It never helped me. So I was an atheist for a while up until I converted in March.
And by atheist, you do you mean agnostic? You believed in something greater than
Agnostics,
yourself?
yes.
Yeah, okay, because atheism is like, the nothing. You believe in nothing. So, okay, that makes a little bit more sense. Um, so how did you come upon Islam?
Like the last 2 years of my high school, I was kind of Googling and researching religions because I had a lot of anger and depression from my health issues. And I looked into Buddhism and Hinduism, kind of spoke to me a little bit, but not too much. And then when I started looking into Islam, it was like, I like this. I just liked it. So the more I looked into it, the more I was like, maybe this will work for me. Maybe this will speak to me. And once I took my shahada, like I felt a spiritual connection that I never felt before. And like that's how I kind of knew.
And what was it about Islam? Did you read the Quran, or did you listen to some recitations or lectures, or what is it that really pulled you in and spoke to you?
I liked the fact that it was supposed to be you and him, like you and Allah. Like just between the you two is all that mattered. You would have your prayers 5 times a day. I haven't gotten there yet, inshallah. I feel like one day we'll get there. But I love the aspect if you took your time out of the day and you just peacefully prayed. It like really, I liked it a lot. Because
So
I needed something to keep me at peace.
Mm-hmm. So the daily practice of Islam kind of is more practical for you in terms of reminding you of that peace, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. And so during this time that you were researching, did your family have any inkling that you were looking into Islam? And if so, how did they feel about that?
They didn't know when I was researching. I kind of was just like, hey, I'm Muslim now. Out of like, I don't know when I told them, but it was just random. I was like, hey, mom, I've decided I want to do this path.
Mm-hmm. And how did she react?
It's been a struggle. She's gone a lot farther than my dad. But when she was younger, she said that she almost converted to being Muslim, but she saw the negative side of it, so she never went forth with it.
You mean maybe people practicing in a way that didn't represent it fully, and she got turned off that way, maybe?
She saw just the bad sides of it, basically, and how women are treated culturally sometimes that you see.
Right, so not really Islam people is what's going up. Okay, yeah. Well, it makes sense, Even in Catholicism, like you were saying, it isn't fully practiced sometimes, and people can be judgmental, so that's fair. But that's very interesting. So she was more accepting than your father then?
Yeah. My dad doesn't accept it yet at all. Like, especially, he was okay with it at first until I started wearing the hijab. That's where my parents both kind of were like, kind of hard for them, I guess, seeing me out and about with not my hair showing because that's what they're used to. And my mom sees it as a oppressed mainly. Like, she's still trying to understand it, but she views it when you go in the Middle East countries where it's enforced as it's oppression. So that's what my parents see, and they feel like I'm hiding myself.
But maybe it's just a lack of knowledge on their part, and if you had a really great discussion about it, they might come around.
Maybe. I'm just thinking one day.
Inshallah. We say inshallah. Um, So the hijab was the major issue then, because when you first told them you weren't wearing hijab?
Yeah, I was not.
Okay. And then what made you decide to put the hijab on or the headscarf?
I really like it. Like not just a religious aspect, but a personal aspect. Like I just liked the aesthetic, the look of it, and then when I would wear it, I feel like I was closer to Allah. So that's why I just started wearing it. Like I've slowly like since the summer I've started getting into it more seriously. And like now I think I'm almost full time. Like I think I have like still some pictures up on my social media with hair, but when I go in public, you're not seeing my hair anymore. But
Mhm.
inshallah, I hope I will get there to where only my family sees it.
Inshallah. Little by little, right?
Yeah.
So was there like a favorite surah or ayah or hadith that you came across that really spoke to your heart during your conversion or before?
Not really. I just, it might sound weird, but I like the idea that in the Quran that the men are supposed to take care of the women. Like, I liked that just because I have a lot of health issues myself. So I already know when I get older, when I want to get married, I'm going to need a man that can support me. And I know in this religion, it's kind of, that's still a thing. Because in today's society, it's not as much a thing where men take care of women. It's kind of both, or women are on their own. So I really liked that. I don't
Men
know.
being kind of the protectors of women.
Yeah. Because that's how my dad was. He's
Hmm.
like, he takes care of us, he provides for us. Kind
Hmm.
of old school. I like that. And then I liked
Nice.
how the women were viewed.
Which is how, in your opinion?
Kind of just like beautiful creatures, I feel like. I
Hmm.
don't know how to explain it. Because, like, I know some teachings on it, but I don't know enough. So, like, I don't want to say something and be completely wrong, you know?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, of course, there's a lot to learn for everybody. It's a lifelong process, so um, that's interesting. So, was your biggest change for you then in your life after Islam wearing hijab, or is there something else that, was part of your
Pork.
life before? Oh, pork.
Pork. I know this is
Yeah,
probably gonna, if other Muslims heard this, they'd be like, what? What's
no.
wrong?
Well, you're not alone, to be honest with you. If you ever go to the revert boards or um, speak to other reverts. It's one of the things, especially for someone coming from an Italian background. I
Sausage.
understand, yeah, that it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
So is that difficult with your family as well? Are they kind of like,
On days they cook pork, I'll just make something myself. But
mhm,
my family definitely loves their pork.
right? And do they take it seriously? I mean, your mom will always let you know,
My
hey, this,
mom lets me, at first she made jokes like I could just feed this and you wouldn't know. And I was like, well, please don't. And then
right.
she doesn't, at least that I know of, which I'm going to trust my mom. But usually when they're cooking pork, she's like, today I'm making this, so you're going to need to make yourself something. And I'll be like, okay. I can't expect you guys to change your whole way of life just because of me. So,
Hmm.
but yeah,
And
pork is definitely big, like you said, being Italian.
yeah, Irish too. I think they
Yeah.
have quite a bit. And as far as like alcohol or drugs or anything like that, was that ever an issue for you before you converted?
Um, Not really, because I never liked alcohol that much. Like, it's okay just because, like, my family, like the Irish Catholics themselves, just like alcohol. So, I've been around it my whole life, but it's not something that I crave, so it wasn't hard to let go.
Right. Alhamdulillah.
But I do have medical marijuana, for my pain. And I know there's some scholars that believe it's haram and some that don't, but that is something that I still take in part of because it just helps my pain, and I prefer that over narcotics.
And if you don't mind me asking, what is the chronic pain that you're dealing with?
I have Crohn's and endometriosis, so I have a lot of abdominal pain, and then I have arthritis and a lot of the spinal issues.
Mm-hmm.
So usually I would just smoke at night, leave some of it, and go to bed.
Mm-hmm. And it helps with that chronic pain. So if it's medicinal, yeah, you definitely have a case there. So at this point, you're a little bit new. What are your favorite tools for increasing your faith in Islam?
I feel like the hijab.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what these are called, so if you can help me out. I got this in a little gift box I got. They're like beads. They look like a rosemary, but they're not a rosemary. And it's used for when you do that 33 times of like Allah Akbar or...
Yeah, I think it's called a sipha, but I know what you're talking about. I'm
I
pretty
have
sure.
one of those, and I like that. It's so easy just going through. You just count each bead.
Right,
Each
right.
bead. I have an abaya with the prayer part, so it covers you, and I like that. Of course, your Quran, have to have one of those. I try to read a couple pages a day or so. I
Are there
feel
any
like
scholars that you enjoy listening to, or
I'm gonna murder this name. Yaqid Yaqid Institute. It's
the
like this.
Yaqeen Institute? Yes, with Omar
Yes.
Suleiman and a bunch of other great scholars.
I started following them on YouTube recently, and I watched their long video on explaining Ayisha and the age,
Mm-hmm.
which that really helped me out because a lot of non-Muslims like to throw that thing out there. Ayisha was 9, which there's
Mm.
a lot of different views on it.
Well, it's also historical context, so I'm sure your parents being Catholic at least sort of revere Jesus' mother Mary, peace be upon her, and she was, by all historical accounts, maybe 12 or 13 when she had Jesus, peace be upon him. So we're talking about, something that we need to set in a historical context rather
Right.
than, just throwing it out there and using our standards to kind of weigh in on whether that's right or wrong or whatever.
I had to do a lot of research into
Yeah.
that because for me it bothered me a lot realizing, oh, Ayisha was 9 and Muhammad, peace be upon him, married her. But then I had to go read, there's a historical times, women actually aged differently physically and mentally back then. And then there's also different scholar opinions. Is she really 9 or was she older? I was researching a lot about that, and I just got to the point, whether she was 9 or not, it was meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
It was meant to be. That's just how I viewed it.
Well, that's good. Yeah. Knowledge will always dispel those myths. I have found in Islam, if you hear something or you read something that seems off to you, it probably is. So you should definitely go back to the sources. So then, what advice would you have for someone thinking about converting to Islam?
Research beforehand and during. And when you have people that try to sway you another way, if they're family, I would say respect your family or whoever it is, but just remember that it's between you and Allah. You just have to remember that when you're converting, that it's going to be between you and God.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of maybe family not being so supportive, what is your advice for dealing with a mother or father or a brother or a sister who might be making your life a little bit difficult?
Well, like it says in the Quran, respect your family. So I have to respect, my dad. He's the worst with it. I have to understand he's my dad. He loves me. he just doesn't understand it yet. So I'm going to respect him, but if he says comments, I'm just going to have to understand he's coming from a loving side, not understanding how he's portraying it. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just, you'll have to recognize that they're your family, but if it's just something you kind of have to work with.
Maybe give it time, and inshallah will work out. Maybe he'll even convert. You never know. Islam can change even the hardest of hearts. We know that. So, and then how about for someone who has newly converted? What's your big piece of advice for them?
Find people your age that are Muslim. Because, like, speaking to people around my age that are Muslim, it really helps you, I feel like, because you get a group of people that can just help you, like, insert yourself into the religion. Like, you just need to find, like, good quality sisters or brothers that can just help you into it. Because it's hard alone.
Mm-hmm.
Very.
And so you have that there in Michigan? You have quite a big community that you can rely on?
Not in my area, but I found people online that I've been able to communicate with, like through groups, through Facebook. Like, there's a bunch of things you can join online. I'm sure if I went to Dearborn, I could get some groups, but...
And so you don't know anyone in your area that's Muslim or any friends that have thought about converting?
Not in my area in particular, but when I was like a sophomore in high school, my school I went to for a little bit had a good Muslim community, I would say, but at that point, I wasn't Muslim. I don't know, it's kind of hard, because whenever I see a fellow sister with a hijab on, I don't want to be up and be like, hey, where do you go? Or do you go to a mosque or anything, or can you help me out? Because I feel like going up to a random sister in public would just be like, she'd probably look at me like I'm crazy.
Inshallah not. And actually, it's a good manners to say at least As-salamu alaykum to someone that you do recognize as a fellow Muslim.
So I know you say As-salamu alaykum, but what do you say back when they say it to you?
Okay, so the sunnah is you want to say something a little bit better. So you would say, wa alaykum as-salam. So you give them the peace and blessings back. And then you say, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And may God give you what's better or bless you more. So if you Google it, it's online and then you can. But at the very least, what you should say is wa alaykum as-salam.
Wa alaykum. That's going to be a pronunciation thing. Okay. Definitely going to have to practice that.
Inshallah. Or you can say it in English too. It's not mandatory in Arabic. So you could just say peace be on you or peace be with you and may God bless you more. I feel like that's also something that English-speaking reverts deal with is all this new language. And if you're not from a background maybe that has afforded you to study Arabic or be familiar, it can feel overwhelming, right?
Yeah, I've met a couple Muslims and they'll say As-salamu alaykum and I'm like, oh, what am I supposed to say?
Yeah.
What do I say back? And I'll be like, As-salam. And they've looked at me a little weird and I'm like,
Well, it's normal. You're new, and again, you don't have the background. So in Islam, there is a saying about how the only thing that makes anyone better than the other is their faith in God. So it's not about your knowledge as far as knowing Arabic or speaking French or whatever,
Yeah.
So become familiar with what you can. It will make your life easier at the masjid or the mosque. It's not mandatory. And if you feel it more in your language, then I would encourage you to reply in your language.
Okay. I'm learning to pray. So I've been praying. I try to do it maybe twice a day now. Like, I up the number is what I'm doing. I started with once a day. Now I'm doing twice a day. But I do in English because I don't, like, I have the Arabic reading, but I feel like I don't feel as spiritually because I don't understand it.
Yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from in that regard. So, as far as that goes with the scholars, they do say, you can, until you have better knowledge and until you can pray in Arabic, that it's completely fine to do it in your language. And there's also a hadith about if you struggle to speak Arabic, but you do it anyways, your reward is like 100 times greater than someone who it just came easy to, or they were born speaking. So
Right.
for every effort you put in, inshallah, you'll be rewarded. And God doesn't speak only one language. So um,
I feel like he'll understand any language as long as it's your effort of trying.
and your sincerity and your intention, and yeah, of course. And inshallah, one day, you
Like,
can.
whenever I pray, I almost want to start bawling my eyes. Like, I just get an emotional feeling. And it's like, no, we don't need to bawl our eyes every time you go to pray, Kaley. You don't need to.
Well, that's not a bad thing. That just suggests that you have a very soft heart, and that's the way God has made you. So this is maybe your biggest blessing because it lets you be able to convert to Islam, which is hard for a lot of Americans, especially because of the history and
Mm-hmm.
the misinformation. So, alhamdulillah, take that as one of your strengths. We need more people with soft hearts in Islam.
Yeah, I'm a big baby.
Well, it was very lovely to talk to you. Do you have any parting words of advice or anything else you would like to share with the listeners?
Just love yourself, but love Allah at the same part. Because if you can't love yourself, you won't be able to love Him. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's important. And I had to learn to love myself before I could love Him.
Mm-hmm. So through Islam, maybe you found a greater self-awareness and
Yeah,
self-acceptance?
I found myself through it, and it helped me a lot.
Well, alhamdulillah and mashallah. Well, we welcome you to the faith, and I am so happy we got to talk to you today.
Thank you.
Inshallah, inshallah, our listeners have gotten something out of it. As-salamu alaykum and peace be with you all.
As-salamu alaykum. Peace be upon you.